Misunderstood, overlooked, sometimes even ignored. That can happen to a lot of communications in a lot of organizations, but here at UDC we're striving to be on the leading edge with communications in the corrections world. We'll talk about how on this edition of Conversations with Corrections. Hello, I'm Richard Pyatt. Here at UDC, we're working to utilize modern tools and new technologies to better tell UDC's story. It starts from within. Our guest today knows all about internal communications. Our communications director, Nicole Vowell, and of course our commissioner, Jared Garcia, is here with perspective as well. Let's start with a little bit of background. How did we get here? Why are we talking about this topic? Commissioner Garcia, there was a communications audit where we uncovered some shortfalls, perhaps, in the way that we were communicating with our own staff. What did our communications audit find?
Yeah, we actually had an audit and we conduct regular pulse surveys for the department to really get a baseline on where we're at. And what the audit and the survey found is that staff felt like we were underperforming in the area of both internal communication and employee recognition. So in regard to internal communication, we realized we needed to do a better job. You kind of alluded to that earlier of telling our story. We feel like we've done a pretty good job externally of elevating corrections and telling our story. But, the most important aspect of the Utah Department of Corrections is our people, and they really need to know what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, how we're trying to accomplish it, and how it impacts them. And so that's why we felt like we needed to bolster the comms team, and we brought you aboard and Nicole aboard, and we're very excited about both of you being here.
And Nicole's extremely knowledgeable with internal communications, as a matter of fact. Can you give us the high view of how much it's needed and how much change needed to be made in what you've been doing?
Absolutely. I came from external communications and media really for 10 plus years before entering the internal communication space at University of Utah Health, which is an extremely large organization. And I learned there over the course of 5 years just how important internal communications when running a large-scale operation such as healthcare, and how important it is to not only think about messaging externally, but how we're talking about our message internally, aligning information, aligning priorities, recognizing our staff internally to keep them there, making them feel heard and valued and seen, and obviously in a very policy and compliant-driven environment such as healthcare. A lot of policy information that was always shared to make sure we're staying up to the latest standards federally through the state. And so there was a lot of policy and change implementation communications that would come down. So it made a lot of sense for me to join the corrections team, and I'm so glad to be here and really launch something that I think we haven't really thought about in communications in corrections in this way before I got here. So it's been a really exciting challenge for me, and I'm excited to see what else we can do in terms of internal communications.
Well, that's right. When people think of communications, of course, they think about talking to the media or putting out a newsletter or communicating to people in the outside world. But in an organization like this, we're finding in a lot of ways it's really crucial that we communicate all the little things that we're doing so that they feel like we are part of one organization. That seems to be one of your overall goals, is making the entire UDC organization feel like a team.
Yeah, extreme ownership is a term that's probably overused a little bit because of some books out there, but we really do want every employee to feel ownership within the organization. And again, a big part of that is helping to tell their story, helping them to understand what we're doing. Like Nicole mentioned, highlighting the great work that they do. And that's why we're very fortunate to have such a robust comms team, because internal communications and external communications bleed together. I'd also say corrections work nationally is underrepresented. There's a conception or misconception out there that they're just prison guards or they're just this or that. And truly, they are the backstop of the criminal justice system. They are true heroes. They are people reformers. They're just amazing. And I think it's really critical for us to lead the nation in telling the story of all of the corrections officers, AP&P agents, and the incredible work they do and why they're important to public safety.
So Nicole, talk a little bit about the strategy moving forward using technology and storytelling both to communicate with our people.
Yeah, the strategy was simple. I came on board and I really took some time to observe just kind of current state, like what we were doing. And then I got really excited about implementing some new changes in terms of effective and valuable communications across the department. We built, and with the help of our technology and innovation division and DTS, we launched a really robust internal website or intranet or employee website that really centralized a lot of our information that we were sharing. A lot of the information that we were sharing prior to launching this new piece of modern technology for internal and information sharing was emails, siloed information. There was a lot of communications breakdowns. So creating a centralized, modern hub for alignment of messaging, for information. And really the strategy is around 4 core principles, which is informing our staff, aligning our staff with department and leadership priorities, and then connecting our staff to not only the work that like other people are doing, but the priorities that we have as a department, and then supporting them in other communications needs or other change things that are happening. And change management is a big part of internal communications. As we know, and I'm sure we're going to get to this, but as we know, in public sector or public service work, there's a lot of policy changes from the state or internal changes that happen. How are we effectively communicating those to staff so we're all in compliance, we're all working the same way, we're all working effectively? So that's where communications and internal communications really steps in and thinks these things through, interjects our expertise with these major projects that are happening, and really takes a holistic view of how can we communicate things effectively to our staff so we're all on the same page and nothing's getting lost in translation.
So how about some specific examples when it comes to training and then the institutional change? Commissioner Garcia, you've been part of organizations where that hasn't happened. You're trying to institute a change and it doesn't work. How frustrating that can be.
Oh, I mean, it's very frustrating because there's so many people that put in the work. You might have, working groups or roundtables or committees that come together and they have great ideas and they believe that their ideas are going to come to fruition, but the lack of communication kills the progress. And so it's critical that we have a good comm strategy. And you talked about training as well. Really, comms and training go hand in hand with each other, whether we're talking about technology or tactics or just an organizational shift or change. They really have to be in the forefront of the operation so people understand. Again, people want to know the why, and especially this young workforce. They're a little different than the generation that I grew up with in law enforcement. I kind of grew up in the generation where you do what you're told, and you more of a kind of a soldier mentality. But the younger workforce absolutely wants to know why we're doing things, and I think that's great that they're curious, and it's going to provide a better opportunity for us to produce stronger leaders moving forward.
Right. Nicole,
Absolutely.
Can you talk about those specific examples with training and institutional change? There's nothing worse than putting the word out there or getting the word out there and then having someone come back and say, well, no one told me.
Yeah, well, that can happen
all the time.
There's a lot of training that goes on in a law enforcement agency, not a law enforcement agency such as corrections, not just a law enforcement agency, the largest law enforcement agency in the state of Utah. There are compliance and annual trainings for our certified staff. There's state trainings for professional and certified staff. This is just one example of how communications is so important, and alignment, holding hands with our training division. And part of the reason we moved to centralizing a lot of this information sharing so people aren't looking for, the training calendar because I saw it in an email 3 weeks ago and I don't know where to find it in Google Workplace. So we're really centralizing that information so people know, in this example, when trainings are due, what trainings are due. And we have a good example of this on what we are calling, or we have called our intranet, which is UDC Connect, which is our modernized intranet. We've created a learning center where it lays out a new hire training versus a certified staff training, all staff training, annual trainings from the state, UDC specific trainings, our ACADIS trainings, our learning portal from annual trainings that come from the state. There's so many trainings. And unless you know where to look to find when you're supposed to have those done, because they impact certifications, really. It impacts our certified staff being able to continue to be certified staff, right? So they need to know when these trainings are coming up, when to do them. And so centralizing information for that alone is a huge win for the department. And leveraging this new technology, this new way of getting information to our staff is critically important, especially when it comes to training.
I think I'd like to add too. I mean, as we've been out on these listening tours, we've gotten a lot of really great feedback about UDC Connect. We know that people, they want to intake information in different ways. Maybe it is email, maybe it's in person, but we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about how user-friendly the UDC Connect page is, how they know that's the place to get information. And we even had one staff member say that they've been begging for this exact solution for 15 years. So, I mean, kudos to all of you for implementing it, but it's necessary for us to be able to get information in the hands of people as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I want to talk about just really quickly the channels of communication. So we've created a new valuable channel through UDC Connect, but to Commissioner Garcia's point, that's not the only one, right? We're improving the way that we're communicating via email. We're creating new pathways we have a digital signage project coming up to where we can start seeing, information shared on the screens that we have in our conference rooms, and thinking through the best avenues, leadership, listening tours, and where to share the information. We have shift commander briefings. We might be interjecting some messaging into those to make sure that the priorities and the messaging are aligned throughout the whole department.
It takes a little bit of time to get people to get into the habit of utilizing something like UDC Connect, but if there are any employees watching and listening, it really is a valuable resource. You need to get in the habit of going there to get your latest information and to get the links that you need to do your job, essentially, moving forward. What about the overall use of technology? How are we using technology to communicate, Nicole?
Yeah, well, I liken it to driving a 1990, Ford Focus versus driving a 2026 like F-150. We're driving a different vehicle of technology in terms of not just the technology that we're implementing through USIMS and on the DPO and AP&P side. We're really bringing corrections as a whole into a modernized technology space in communications as well. And we're really thinking about the best ways that people receive information, right? There's many different ways people receive information best. How are we touching all of those areas to make sure our staff feel well informed, and leveraging what existing software? I can get into the technical weeds, but I mean, using ServiceNow and implementing the new platform of UDC Connect with existing software, cost savings to the department. We're already using something. We're just using it in a new way, right? Thinking through those types of technological implementations to bolster our communications needs. And on that front, I do want to mention change management, right? So a lot of what internal communications does is lead the charge, and really it's probably one of the most important things in change management. And we're going through a lot of change in the department. So, and they're all great things, right? I'm excited about this, bringing the department into a modernized way of, I don't think any other corrections agency in the country is going to be doing what we're doing eventually, but making sure we're communicating all of the whys, right? Why are we doing these things? There's specific change management frameworks and best practices that we're following, creating awareness about change, creating desire, getting buy-in from our staff to understand why we're implementing this change, creating the knowledge and training for the adoption of the change, and then reinforcing the change. These are change management best practices that I don't think the department really has adopted a communication style like this before and really thought this through. So it's exciting. It's new. It's a new way of approaching communications within a large agency, but I think in the long term, it's going to be helpful with adopting all of the things that we're adopting throughout the department.
I think one more thing to add to change management, and when we talk about communications, is just the importance of circular communication. And what I mean by that is our willingness and ability to listen to our team from the very first person or the most recently person that was hired all the way to the person that's been here maybe 40, 45 years. And I think that's another mechanism in your overall strategy is you guys are creating opportunities for employee feedback, which is a part of change management, which helps us to make better decisions because we're not doing the same work that everybody has a different job or a different role to play in the department, but they're all equally as important. And so we need to hear from the people that are doing the work because our goal is to make their jobs easier, not harder, to help support them more, and to make this a place that people want to work long term. I don't want this to be a job for people. I want this to be a career for people. And I can't think of a better organization to have a career in than the Utah Department of Corrections right now.
Was it something that you had to think about, maybe change your thinking, or was it something that you've always thought about investing in the communication realm? Some of the technology, some of the cameras, some of the gear that we have, some of the personnel that you need to hire in order to get that going. How did you come to the conclusion that this was something that you thought was worthwhile?
Well, I mean, honestly, when I got here and I compare it to my previous agencies that I worked for, UDC was ahead of the curve when it came to the actual equipment, and the comms team had expanded before we got here. And I just think other agencies don't really see the value of investing in this as much as this organization has. And I think it's important that we double down on that in corrections because of what I mentioned earlier. It has been an underrepresented part of public safety for my entire 24-year career, and that's not only here in Utah, that's in every state. And so in order for us to be viewed as an equal part of the criminal justice system, which we absolutely should be and are, we have to do a better job of telling our story internally and externally. And I think, again, there's the audience doesn't know there's several people in this room from our comms team, and they are absolutely amazing. I believe we have the best comms team in the country. You guys are leading the way on how we do this work, and I'm just so appreciative to have you as part of this team.
So, Nicole, what does the future look like? What does UDC Connect? There's still some things that UDC Connect is awesome, and people are utilizing it, but we still have more to come. There's more excitement in store for people, huh?
We're constantly developing, and actually, I think the project of UDC Connect is never going to end because we have to adapt how we communicate based on the changes and the adaptations of the department itself. So we're constantly evaluating how can we improve this, how can we get this to be more clear or centralized, or let people know where these things live, right, on this new platform that we have. And there's lots more to come. We're actually moving Simon, right, to UDC Connect.
What's Simon?
Simon is our tool for staff. There's a lot of things that Simon does, but it tracks our staff, where they work, what kind of clearances they have. And so we have this archaic system that we are using right now. We're actually in the process of replatforming that to UDC Connect. We're replatforming how we do clearances to UDC Connect. We are really migrating and replatforming pretty much everything that was on our old kind of clunky intranet over to UDC Connect, but not just moving it over because we have to move it over, really moving it over with intention, bringing value, rethinking how things are presented to staff there, and really making it a valuable tool and centralized hub for information, resources. People can access all of the applications that they use for their day-to-day work on UDC Connect, OTRAC, Blue Team, Acadis. They all live there. They have quick links to access those programs that people use throughout our organization every single day. Not only that, aligning messaging and sharing, all the recognition and the great work that's happening, not just in your division, but across the whole department. So you can see what other people are doing in R&R versus AP&P versus, what's the latest news on the awesome work one of our corrections officers did in Bear One, So
Right.
we're using this not only as a tool for communicating and effectively for information, but also operational changes, policy changes, and using it as a tool to connect the work that we're doing inside and break down those silos, right? That was a big mission for Commissioner Garcia. I'm still getting used to the name change.
Me too.
And breaking down the silos. I think one of UDC Connect's really big mission and big purpose is breaking down those silos. We're able to see now in a larger way what work is going on outside of your division. And you can get those stories and the importance of storytelling, not just to the public, but telling the story of the great work happening with your neighbor in the division next to you. Is so important to build connection, and we're building a community within our little city that we call corrections. So I love it as a connection tool, and that's kind of why we named it UDC Connect anyway. But there's lots of things happening in the improvements and the development and behind the scenes and the back end of UDC Connect. We're constantly making improvements and listening to our staff and really making those updates, I would say, weekly, honestly.
And our partners at Technology and Innovation have been instrumental in instituting. Although those cooperative relationships are very valuable, aren't they, Commissioner?
Yes, we just have an amazing team, and Technology Innovation has a lot of projects on their plate right now, but they truly understand the importance of communication, and I think you all work very well together.
We couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, I agree. They're awesome. We're a really, really great team right now. I agree with all of that. Well, as we wrap things up, Commissioner Garcia, can you kind of help us wrap it up by from where we started to where we are and where we want to be? Can you kind of like tie all those loose ends together as far as where we are with our internal communications and our commitment to move that forward and make this organization even more solid?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think when you hear of an audit or a survey that we put out, I mean, audits, they can seem scary, but they're important. They help us to evaluate where we need to go as a department. And surveys, we want honest feedback from our staff. So I think it's good that we got honest feedback in those areas, and we want to demonstrate that we're going to take action when we do get feedback. And I think we've done a great job of that. I fully expect for this organization to be the best correctional agency in the country. It's not lip service. It is truly an expectation. I think we are well on our way. But in order to do that, we have to create a platform where other agencies want to emulate or copy what we do. That means we have to be the best at what we do, and communications plays a tremendous role in that. So we need to continue to highlight the state of Utah. We need to continue to highlight the Utah Department of Corrections, and we need to continue to highlight our people and the great work that they do so people have a better understanding of corrections work, so our people feel valued, so they see that this is a career and not just a job, and that'll create stability and better outcomes for the people that we serve. So we need both internal and external communications, and again, I know I've already shouted out this team, but you guys are amazing, all of you, and we appreciate all the work that you do.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Garcia. Thanks, Nicole, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Internal communications, check us out online, internally and externally, because we're doing some really, really awesome people as we continue our mission to work together, transform lives, and protect communities. See you next time.
This has been Conversations with Corrections from the Utah Department of Corrections. These podcasts are available on the UDC YouTube page or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Suggestions for a future topic can be sent to udccommunications@utah.gov. Thank you for joining us.